So who is Wonder Man? Well, to start, he's not related to Wonder Woman at all, but he is a Marvel Comics character dating back to around the early 60s. And there definitely were some lawsuits between Marvel and DC back in the day over the names and issues with character recognition due to the names, because Wonder Man, Wonder Woman, obviously. His first appearance was in Avengers issue number 9 back in 1964. His name is Simon Williams, a former actor and inventor who inherits his father's tech company. Kind of like Tony Stark, with a tumultuous family legacy and all that. Unlike the Starks, however, Simon and his brother weren't exactly geniuses at business or tech or anything in order to save the company. It's actually Tony Stark's new inventions and his patents that make the Williams company's patents nearly worthless. This actually leads Simon to embezzle from his own company out of desperation, but not well enough to not get caught. So Simon is caught and charged, and unbeknownst to him, the infamous Baron Zemo is ready to bail him out with the Enchantress and Executioner there to pay his bail. They don't look sketchy at all. Zemo does some classic crazy comic book experiments on him, bombarding his body with the most concentrated source of ionic rays on the planet. Definitely not dangerous. This, however, gives him super strength, rivaling Thor's, and nearly invincible skin. One part that I found funny here was instead of just letting him have those powers and super flight or some kind of flight ability, they also give him rockets on his belt, so he's more of a rival to Tony Stark's bodyguard, Iron Man. Yeah, that's right. Tony Stark's bodyguard was Iron Man for a long time in the comics, if you didn't know that already. Executioner gets a little jealous of this new power of Simon's and all the attention he's getting from Enchantress, but Zemo reassures him and tells Simon that he's gonna die unless Zemo gives him an antidote every week. So Simon has to be loyal and do Zemo's bidding or he's gonna die. So Simon infiltrates the Avengers to get revenge on Tony Stark, but really just to stay alive. As the plan works and Simon is befriended by the Avengers, he leads them into a trap. Simon then realizes Zemo doesn't plan on just capturing the Avengers and teaching them a lesson. No, Zemo plans to kill every one of them, and this causes a crisis within Simon, resulting in him turning on his evil pals to save the Avengers. But without Zemo and friends, Simon will not be able to get the antidote to his ionic condition, and he's gonna die. So Simon saves the Avengers and dies in their arms. Or so we think, until Avengers 58, when we find out that the Avengers scanned the brain and memories of Simon for later use, in hopes of saving him or something like that, but that data would then become the basis for the hero we know as the Vision. And that's his entire first appearance in a nutshell, but this is where things really start to get interesting for the Wonder Man character. As Wonder Man develops and evolves from writer to writer in Marvel's canon, so do his powers. Eventually, he really does become this being of ionic energy and not just a 60s trope. This makes Simon one of the most powerful beings in a lot of ways in a lot of the stories he's in. Something that eventually gets juxtaposed to his staunch pacifist beliefs after his time with the Avengers. Over the course of his existence, he's been part of several different Marvel teams, including one he started himself called the Revengers, after a falling out with the Avengers. He's had one or two dedicated runs of his own, while mostly appearing in bigger ensemble books like the West Coast Avengers, and various runs of main Avengers books. In fact, he was a mainstay in a lot of the Avengers for a while. My particular favorite of him is him in the Uncanny Avengers from about 2012, but more on that in another video. But what is important to know is that eventually Simon is often a harsh critic of Avengers initiatives and anything to do with the Avengers, and he rarely wants to be involved with anything that they're doing. He's this being of immense power and energy who, if he can, avoids violence and seeks other ways of solving conflicts. It doesn't mean he never fights or never does some cool Avenger comic book fighting stuff, but he's definitely very quick to try and de-escalate, which is just really interesting for somebody who's got so much power. Simon Williams, in a lot of ways, is known really well for being that guy who dies and comes back to life over and over. But I guess at this point, there's a lot of characters that do that or have done that these days. To me, though, Simon has a very unique way of being written in and out of stories. And sometimes he does that in the most crazy comic booky type of ways. And it's just really interesting to see this character's ins and outs of stories over the years because he's been around for so long. Lastly, one of the things that's most central to Simon's character is his connection to the Scarlet Witch. And so much of his lore, his love for Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, is his driving motivation for coming back to the Avengers or joining the Avengers. It causes all kinds of tension with Vision, who's kind of considered his half-brother or just his full brother because of the whole brainwave situation, but this love for Wanda is always this weight that Simon carries around when he isn't with her. It's just this one element of Simon's story that I'm really disappointed because I'm not sure how they're going to approach it in the MCU, and my guess is that they're just gonna cut it out altogether. So if they are able to bring that back somehow, that would be really cool. So that's a lot about Wonder Man, but what are you looking forward to with the new show? Are you looking forward to it at all? Are you burnt out on Disney and Marvel? Let me know in the comments.